London, 1888. The air hung heavy with the soot of 1,000 chimneys and the damp chill rising from the Thames. Whitechapel, a sprawling labyrinth of destitution and despair, was a place where gaslight struggled to pierce the perpetual gloom. Its narrow, winding alleys, slick with rain and refuse, hid secrets in every shadow. Poverty was a constant companion, and desperation a familiar face. But as the leaves began to turn that fateful autumn, a new, more profound terror began to creep through the fog-laden streets, a shadow unlike any London had ever known. It stalked the forgotten, the vulnerable, turning the very fabric of the city's underbelly into a hunting ground. This was the dawn of fear, the prelude to a legend etched in blood and mystery. Before the canonical five, there was Martha Tabram. August 7, 1888. Her brutalized body was found on the landing of George Yard Buildings just off Commercial Street. 29 stab wounds, inflicted by what was believed to be a dagger or bayonet. Her throat was not cut, nor were her organs removed. She was a woman of the streets, like so many others in Whitechapel, struggling to survive. While not officially counted among the Ripper's victims, her murder sent a shiver through the East End. Was this the killer's first strike, an experiment in terror, or merely a coincidentally horrific act preceding the true Autumn of Terror? The question still echoes in the silent corners of history, a phantom whisper in the gloom. August 31st, 1888. The early hours. Mary Ann Nichols, known as Polly, a woman in her mid-40s, down on her luck, was last seen alive near Bucks Row. She was turned away from a common lodging house for lacking the 4 pence for a bed. "I'll soon get my DOS money," she reportedly told the deputy. Those would be her last known words. Shortly after, at 3:40 a.m., her body was discovered by a carter named Charles Cross. Her throat was savagely cut, almost decapitating her, and her abdomen horribly mutilated. This wasn't merely murder. This was a statement. The methodical brutality, the dark precision, heralded the arrival of something truly monstrous. The East End held its breath. Just over a week later, the fog of fear deepened. September 8th, 1888, Annie Chapman, another woman struggling in the unforgiving streets, was found mutilated in the backyard of 29 Hanbury Street, Spitalfields. Discovered at 6 a.m., her throat was cut and her abdomen, like Polly's, was grotesquely opened. What marked this case with even greater dread was the chilling detail. Parts of her internal organs had been removed. The killer was growing bolder, more audacious, and more surgical in his depravity. A leather apron, often associated with slaughterhouse work, became a grim symbol, a whispered accusation in the alleys. The police were baffled, the public terrified. A predator walked amongst them, unseen, unheard, save for the silent screams of his victims. With 2 horrific murders in 8 days, panic seized Whitechapel. Rumors spread like wildfire through the grimy pubs and overcrowded tenements. The local constabulary, accustomed to petty crime and drunken brawls, found themselves facing a terror beyond their comprehension. Their primitive investigative techniques, reliant on eyewitness accounts and beat patrols, proved woefully inadequate against a phantom. Extra police were drafted in. Plainclothes officers mingled with the desperate crowds, but the killer left no discernible trace. The very air seemed charged with dread. Every shadow was suspect, every footfall a potential harbinger of doom. The hunt had begun, but the hunter remained elusive, a specter in the city's dark heart. September 30th, 1888, the night of the double event, a date forever etched in infamy. The first victim was Elizabeth Stride, known as Long Liz, a Swedish immigrant. Her body was discovered shortly before 1 a.m. in Dutfield's yard off Burner Street. Her throat was cut, a deep, wide gash, but, unlike Polly and Annie, her body showed no abdominal mutilations. The initial assessment suggested the killer had been interrupted, perhaps a cart entering the yard, a sudden noise, or a witness. For a moment, it seemed the monster's ritual had been broken. But the relief was fleeting, a cruel trick of the flickering gaslight, for the night was far from over, and the Ripper's bloodlust was not yet sated. Barely an hour after Elizabeth Stride's discovery, the terror struck again. Catherine Eddowes, known as Kate Conway, was found in Mitre Square, a mere 15-minute walk from Berner Street, in the heart of the City of London, a different police jurisdiction. Her mutilations were the most extensive yet. Her throat was deeply cut, her face horrifically disfigured, and her abdomen savagely ripped open, her intestines pulled out. Even more chilling, her left kidney and part of her uterus had been removed. The audacity, the proximity to the previous murder, the escalation of violence, it confirmed the presence of a truly unhinged individual. The killer had escaped one interruption only to commit an even more heinous act, almost taunting the authorities. Following the discovery of Catherine Eddowes, a crucial and controversial piece of evidence emerged. Near the site in Golston Street, a piece of her bloodied apron was found, and on the wall above it, a message scrawled in chalk: "The Jews are the men that will not be blamed for nothing." The discovery ignited a fierce debate. Was it written by the killer? Was it an attempt to frame a specific community? Or was it unrelated, a piece of existing graffiti? In an era already rife with anti-Semitism, the City of London Police Commissioner, fearing sectarian riots, ordered the message to be washed away before it could be properly photographed. This hasty decision has fueled debate and suspicion for over a century, a tantalizing clue erased before its full implications could be understood. Amidst the terror and confusion, the killer began to communicate. Letters, allegedly from Jack the Ripper, flooded newspaper offices and Scotland Yard. The most infamous was the Saucy Jackie postcard, received on October 1st, 1888, the very day after the double event. It gloated about the two murders and promised more. Though many believe it was a hoax designed to capitalize on the panic, its content, particularly the mention of the double event before the public was fully aware, lent it a chilling credibility. It was from this postcard that the infamous moniker Jack the Ripper was born, giving a faceless monster a name, and in doing so, cementing his place in the darkest annals of criminal history. Perhaps the most disturbing communication attributed to the Ripper arrived in mid-October, addressed "From Hell." This letter contained a small box with a piece of human kidney, purportedly from Catherine Eddowes. The author claimed he fried and ate it, and would send the other piece when it was quite done. The macabre detail, the casual barbarity, and the impossible-to-verify claim of cannibalism pushed the terror to new, unimaginable depths. Whether genuine or a ghastly hoax, it demonstrated the psychological impact the killer had achieved. The letters, whether authentic or not, became part of the Ripper's mythology, adding layers of calculated cruelty and dark theatricality to his reign of terror. After the frenzy of September and October, a tense silence fell over Whitechapel. Weeks passed without another murder. The relentless fog of fear, though still present, began to thin slightly. Whispers of hope, fragile and tentative, started to circulate. Had the Ripper fled? Was he caught? Or had he simply stopped? The police, though still vigilant, found themselves facing a new kind of pressure, the eerie quiet. This lull, however, was merely the drawing of breath before a final, devastating blow. The monster had not gone. He was simply waiting, observing, preparing for his most audacious and horrifying act yet, a final declaration of his absolute control. November 9th, 1888. The day after Lord Mayor's Day, a public holiday. The final and arguably most gruesome canonical murder. Mary Jane Kelly, a young woman in her mid-20s, was found in her single room at 13 Miller's Court, off Dorset Street. The scene was one of unparalleled horror. Her body was utterly disfigured, her internal organs strewn about the room, her heart removed. This was not a quick, clandestine act in a dark alley. This was a prolonged, intimate defilement, carried out indoors under a roof. The sheer scale of the mutilation suggested the killer had hours undisturbed to carry out his monstrous work. It was a final, chilling crescendo to the Autumn of Terror, a declaration of absolute, unbridled savagery. After Mary Jane Kelly, the murders stopped. Just as suddenly and mysteriously as they began, Jack the Ripper vanished into the shadows from which he emerged. The Autumn of Terror gave way to a cold, haunted winter. The police continued their investigations, endless theories were spun, and suspects were interrogated, but the trail went cold. The public, exhausted by fear, began to piece their lives back together, but the scars remained. The killer had achieved what no other criminal had before. He had held an entire city hostage, committed unspeakable acts, and then simply evaporated, leaving behind a legacy of fear and an unsolved riddle that would captivate generations. Over the decades, countless individuals have been put forward as potential suspects. Prince Albert Victor, the Duke of Clarence; Montague John Druitt, a barrister; Aaron Kosminski, a Polish barber; George Chapman, alias Severin Klosowski, a Polish serial poisoner; and even Dr. Thomas Neil Cream, another infamous poisoner. Each theory has its proponents, its circumstantial evidence, and its fatal flaws. Some are based on police files, some on rumor, some on dubious confessions or intricate deductions. But none have ever been proven definitively. The true identity of Jack the Ripper remains shrouded in the same impenetrable fog that once clung to the streets of Whitechapel, a testament to the killer's cunning and the limitations of Victorian forensics. More than a century has passed since the Autumn of Terror, yet Jack the Ripper continues to haunt the collective imagination. He is more than a killer. He is a dark archetype, a symbol of the unknown predator lurking in the urban labyrinth. His story serves as a chilling reminder of the fragility of life, the depths of human depravity, and the enduring power of an unsolved mystery. The wet cobblestones of Whitechapel still seem to whisper his name. The gaslights still flicker with his spectral presence. Jack the Ripper remains, to this day, the Phantom of London, a legend born in blood, forever lost in the fog of time, forever from hell.